Top Trump administration officials are under fire after the Signal chat leak. That's where we're starting the 7 from the Washington Post. I'm Hannah Jewell. It's Wednesday, March 26th. Let's get you caught up with today's 7 stories. President Donald Trump said yesterday that he stands by his national security advisor, Michael Waltz. That's who accidentally invited the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic magazine to a highly sensitive chat among senior administration officials this month. The chat on the messaging app Signal discussed a U.S. military operation against Houthi militants in Yemen. Trump suggested that the problem had been an issue with technology and not a lapse in judgment.
Do you think that Mike Waltz made a mistake, and does he need to apologize?
No, I don't think he should apologize. I think he's doing his best. It's equipment and technology that's not perfect, and probably he won't be using it again.
Meanwhile, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard and CIA Director John Ratcliffe faced down angry Democratic senators at an Intelligence Committee hearing yesterday. Here's Virginia Senator Mark Warner.
This was not only sloppy, it not only violated all procedures, but if this information had gotten out, American lives could have been lost.
Gabbard and Ratcliffe didn't seem to be able to get their story straight over whether or not classified intelligence was shared on the chat. Here's another Democrat, Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, questioning Gabbard.
The deliberation as to whether or not we should launch a strike on another country, would you consider that classified information, Ms. Gabbard?
Well, the information was not classified.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is also facing intense scrutiny for his role in the chat. His colleagues in the cabinet seem to be shifting blame for the incident onto him. President Trump signed an order to require proof of citizenship to vote. That's number 2. Trump continued his spree of executive orders yesterday. One aims to require people to provide documents like passports or some driver's licenses to prove they are citizens when they register to vote. Experts said such a move could prevent millions of Americans from voting in federal elections, including Trump supporters. Many people don't have easy access to such documents. Birth certificates would not be allowed. And some experts said that Trump is claiming power he does not have. Lawsuits over the measure are all but guaranteed. The order reflects Trump's fixation on election administration. He has baselessly claimed that the 2016 and 2020 presidential races were riddled with fraud and illegal voting by non-citizens. But to be clear, there's no evidence that widespread corruption tainted either election. Number 3. Ukraine and Russia agreed to a ceasefire in the Black Sea. Earlier this month, Ukraine and Russia came to an agreement for a very limited ceasefire, one that would halt attacks on energy infrastructure. Yesterday, the countries agreed to expand that deal to include a maritime ceasefire in the Black Sea. It's not clear when it will take effect. U.S.-sponsored talks have been taking place in Saudi Arabia, where negotiators are trying to reach a more comprehensive ceasefire. Separately, the U.S. agreed yesterday to help Russia sell its grain and fertilizer on the world market. This has been a long-standing demand by Russia. Ukraine said it was a concession to Russia that would weaken its position at the negotiating table. Number 4. It's been 1 year since Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsed. Just before 1:30 a.m. Eastern on March 26th last year, a nearly 1,000-foot-long cargo ship crashed into the bridge on its way out of the port of Baltimore. The ship, called the Dolly, lost power just before it drifted into the bridge. 8 people fell into the water. All of them were members of a construction crew working on the bridge. 6 of them were killed. Recently, the Post caught up with Larry DeSantis. He was one of the last people to drive over the bridge before it collapsed. Here are some of his reflections a year later.
That's what everybody always says, you're lucky. And I am, but it's just unfortunate that people died. That's where my thoughts were mostly. It's the poor people that, the guys that were working there, gone.
Federal investigators said last week that Maryland officials failed to analyze the risk that the bridge could collapse after being hit by a ship. Number 5. 1 in 8 Californians now face extreme fire danger. On Monday, California's Forestry and Fire Protection Agency released new fire maps. The Post analyzed them and found that there are now about 5.1 million people in the state living in the 2 highest fire severity zones. That means they're living in places at risk for the kinds of devastating wildfires that tore through Los Angeles in January. The threat is bigger than previous state estimates showed. Hotter and drier weather has made landscapes more flammable even in winter. The maps themselves are controversial. Those that live in the riskiest zones are subject to higher building standards and landscaping rules. That could make it more costly for people who lost their homes in Los Angeles to rebuild. About 1 in 5 U.S. counties already have some spring leaves. That's number 6. Spring may start on a different day depending on who you ask. A meteorologist may say March 1st, while an astronomer may say March 20th. But what if you ask the plants? Unfortunately, they won't reply directly, but their behavior provides clues about the transition into spring. The phrase spring leaf out is one way to describe the season's arrival based on the emergence of leaves. This year, about 19% of counties in the U.S. are experiencing spring leaf out at least a week early, while 9% of counties are registering a spring leaf out that's more than a week late. The early leaf out in many northern states follows an abnormally warm March, and it could contribute to an early start to allergy season. So don't be surprised if you start sneezing earlier than usual. If you want to see what's happening where you live, there's a handy map in our newsletter today. Just follow the link in our show notes. Number 7 today is not about aliens. A mysterious blue swirl appeared in the night sky. On Monday night, a spinning light blue swirl puzzled skywatchers from Britain to Croatia. Many thought it looked like an alien signal from a sci-fi movie. One person who spotted it said on social media that it looked like seeing a portal open above us. It likely wasn't a portal to another world, but the real explanation is still pretty cool. It turns out it was connected to the launch of a SpaceX rocket in Florida on Monday. The spiral was probably caused by fuel released by the spinning rocket during the launch. The gases formed ice crystals that reflected sunlight from space. As more rockets are being launched more frequently, researchers say such phenomena are becoming more common. We will update you if these spirals do turn out to be aliens after all. All right, you're all caught up. For more on the fallout from the signal leak, check out yesterday's episode of Post Reports. Our national security reporters break down the security risks of the breach and how the administration and Congress are responding. Find Post Reports wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Hannah Jewell. I'll meet you back here tomorrow.